Welcome everyone to another CoH2 recast. This time we're going to have a 1v1 on Холодні Ферма. Oh boy, I dislike Холодні Ферма. Let's get this going. We're going to have Earth spawning in the east, playing as the Wehrmacht, and on the enemy team we're going to have Ron LG playing as the USF, of course, on the west side of Холодні Ферма. And, of course, Холодні Ферма, for those of you who somehow have never played this map, Field Point, very close to the base, but also harassable, cut off, obviously very vulnerable. VP in the center, lots of red cover. VP on the north, no real cover, but also no any real red cover. And of course, VP in the south, also sort of very much on the sidelines of the map. So usually the fight happens around the center, and the early game around the cutoffs. And then the munitions are, of course, very harassable over here, just smack dab in the center of the map. In the north, there is a building overlooking the munitions points and a lot of green cover. Conversely, on the south side, we have a lot of red cover around the munitions. So that's just pretty much the way it goes. Now, the other main difference between the two sides is, of course, this annoying-ass building over here is sort of overwatching the central VP and the sort of point right next to the base, and on the enemy, or yeah, on the other side of the map, we only really have this building that's kind of similar, but it's not as punishing if you lose it. And then obviously the fact that there's the road just moving on through both ends of the map is the other main feature. Now, looks like Earth went for a pretty standard opening for one. He went for 1 MG, and then he's going for 2 Grenadier squads. 2 Grenadiers are going to be good at the long-range engagements on this map. However, he will have to be very careful not to get caught by these riflemen, especially in the south side of the map. There is a lot of vision blocking effects, such as these trees, and in general, also some buildings that the riflemen can use to approach the Grenadiers unseen and get into close range before the Grenadiers can react. In that case, the Grenadiers are going to lose fairly hard, especially without any upgrades, especially in the early game. Of course, Ron LG going for 3 rifleman squads, very standard opening for a USF player, especially on a map that requires a lot of capping power, such as this one. So no real weird stuff coming in out of him yet. Now, these riflemen are going to be trying to get behind this destroyed truck. However, they're only going to be really protected from the machine gun suppressing fire. I feel like the Grenadiers will still be able to win the fight because of their superior position up top the church. However, there is also the MG42 resetting up to sort of face them, and the riflemen will be forced to retreat through the red cover, so taking quite a lot of damage. Still no ambulance, of course, because this is pretty much the start of the game, so that will hurt actually quite a bit to lose that amount of HP on the get-go. Now, we also have a 3rd Grenadier squad out of Earth. It's going to be sent to the south, it looks like. In the south, we do have a couple of riflemen, or a rifleman and a rear echelon squad attempting to push up against these Grenadiers, but they're definitely making a mistake in staying at long range. They're definitely trying to be charging at closer ranges where the rear echelons and the riflemen have the best chance of taking out the Grenadiers in a stand-up fight. Of course, we also have the reinforcement Grenadiers coming in to protect the flank of the machine gun, which is actually going to set up to suppress these riflemen trying to recapture the VP. And so, essentially, the American forces in the south will be forced to retreat. In the center, we also have the Grenadiers from Earth taking positions in this building. Unfortunately, he hasn't really been able to take the VP, and in the north, this one rifleman squad has been able to cap away unmolested, and that's really good for the American player because it allows him to have a lot more resources than he would have otherwise if he didn't have that one squad capping up there. Of course, if that had been a rear echelon squad capping up there and the riflemen were in the fight in the south, then the fighting that was happening may have turned in the direction of Ron LG. However, that is not for certain, and still, it was a good move out of Ron LG to keep that one rifleman squad capping instead of sending it to reinforce some fights that he would have lost anyway, probably. I feel like at this point, Ron LG should definitely go for a mortar. He does have the manpower. He's actually going for a lieutenant. Now, the lieutenant will be useful for especially the half-track in case he needs some very quick light vehicle on the field. However, I feel like the 50 cal machine gun for now is not exactly the most important thing to go for him, especially because of the fact that Earth does have 4 Grenadier squads, and he will be able to, thanks to this flamethrower, recapture this building. And yeah, I'm not sure actually. Well, there's only one rifleman shooting at the flamethrower, so the flamethrower will be able to easily clear the building, and then essentially a mortar would be able to prevent the enemy from using this house right next to the sort of doorstep of the Allied base. Prevent the Germans from using this house a little bit too much, thanks to the mortar fire coming down and clearing the building. But an MG will really not be doing much. Now, he's going for an M20, and I feel like that is a big mistake, because the M20 will not be able to withstand the 2-2 Scout card that Earth should be going for. I feel like Earth does have the Battle Phase 1, and once he manages to get these engineers working on a Tier 2, he will be able to get the 2-2, and in fact, he will be able to get a 4-4-4 even with the double Scout card, and that would be really good for him. Now, his MG is almost up to bed 1, and having the MG up to bed 1 is going to obviously be very important for the armor-piercing incendiary rounds that are going to be able to easily take out this armored car. Of course, some riflemen trying to flank from the south will be instantly pinned by the machine gun. As soon as Earth discovered that these riflemen were coming down, he managed to get the machine gun to focus fire down on those guys instead of anything else, and that was a really good play, saving his machine gun from a lot of trouble. Now, Grenadiers are starting to get some veterancy, and finally the Tier 2 is on the field, and the Scout cars will be really good to take out the M20. They will be really good in general also to deal with harassing American squads such as this one rear echelon, because of course having that quick response unit of the armored car is going to be great for him. However, I also feel like if Earth can put some pressure down on this VP, or rather this cutoff point over here, it's going to help him out very greatly in the long run, because right now, while Earth is superficially at the base of the enemy, the Americans player can still sort of call down on the resources of pretty much the entire north, despite what this Grenadier has been trying to do. The north is still pretty firmly under the control of the Americans with Rifle Grenade. However, nice retreat out of Ron LG. I feel like that retreat could have been a little bit earlier, but he still managed to get his rifleman squad alive and save it from the trouble, so that's pretty good for him. However, in the center we do have the armored car attempting to dive the M20, and the M20, as you may know, has a crew equipped with bazooka. So the one bazooka of the M20 vehicle crew is very dangerous for the 222. It's pretty much the only way that the M20 can survive the encounter, using that bazooka to deter the 222 from doing anything weird. Of course, we also have the fact that there's some Grenadiers around, so getting out of that M20 as the rear echelons managed to capture the southern VP, getting out of that M20 is actually very scary, because the German riflemen may actually be able to take out the German vehicle crew. However, I feel like Earth did a mistake in going back to the building, because he could have just stayed in the fight, and if he managed to get the vehicle crew of the M20 down to 2 men, they wouldn't have been able to actually take the M20. Of course, there's also the fact that, to remember that, by the way, nice job by Earth taking the field point and a VP in the north, thus allowing him to have a VP lead and a fuel lead, a pretty crushing one, in fact, 4 times the fuel income of the Americans. Still, talking about the M20, there is the fact that it was right outside the American base, so even if the Germans were able to take out the vehicle crew, the American player could have just used one of his rifleman squads to bring it back to the base, and then have the vehicle crew repair and reinforce, and then that would have been pretty easy for him to keep the M20, and also it would have been really hard, because of the base MGs, to have a Grenadier squad sneak up and take the M20 for himself. So that was, I guess, a decent little play there by Earth. Now, we do have the 444 on the field. 444 should definitely move together. The 444 is really meant to be a one-man, or rather a two sort of battle group that is supposed to stay united. I feel like sending in 1 222 alone is only going to alert the enemy that it should build or come up with some kind of AT measure. I feel like the shock value, the shock value of the double 222 would be much more useful. Of course, taking out this lieutenant is very important, and I'm not sure why Earth is not going for the lieutenant right now. Of course, it's because of this M20. However, he cannot chase the M20 into the base. I just really don't see how he proposes to just go in the base and come out unscathed. Of course, as you can see, the double 222 working together also kind of puts them in danger, because sometimes the pathing of the AI is not exactly that great. So the pathing of the 222 was not the perfect pathing, but it still managed to get him out of the line of fire. Very lucky that Ron LG was not able to throw an instant rifle grenade. He does have 200 munitions, so he can throw pretty much infinite amounts of anti-tank rifle grenades, he should definitely still have one of his squads, especially his engineers, but also some of his grenadiers, focus on getting this cutoff point. He needs to get the cutoff point and just not allow the Americans to keep sending units to the north to recapture these points and take these points and their resources and use them against them. Because if right now he manages to stranglehold the Americans onto the base, then it is going to be really good for him in the later stages of the game when he will have pretty much the complete control of the resources of the map. And if he can do that, then he has got pretty much the game under his control completely. And if he doesn't do that, then the Americans have a chance to come back in the game, get a Sherman perhaps, get a Jackson to counter later German vehicles, and then perhaps get their victory that way. But if he manages to actually get the fuel point, if he manages to get the victory point, then he's going to be fine. Now, Ron LG actually going for the captain means that he's going to be pretty much forced to go for either the tactical support company or the heavy cavalry company. I feel like the heavy cavalry company is going to be his choice, because the Pershing right now is pretty much the last hope of Ron LG to get back into the game with a sort of heavy tank. But really, the problem with that is that it's going to take forever to get to the Pershing, and I feel like Earth, again, if he were to just play a little bit more aggressively, he's lost one Grenadier squad, I'm not sure where, but it was an unfortunate loss, because he, at this point is when Earth really needs to pick up the pace of the game and play aggressively. If he does that, if he gets the middle VP, if he gets a triple cap going, if he gets the fuel point under his control, then he's going to be able to easily win. However, if he diddle-daddles around and doesn't really get anything done in this moment where he has the advantage, then the Allies will have a chance to come back in the game. Now, definitely this is a mistake. When you capture this munitions point, you always need to be very careful, because the red cover is everywhere, and so you're going to take a lot of damage. Now, looks like some Riflemen were actually upgraded with bazookas thanks to the huge amount of munitions that the Germans had, or rather the Americans had. And I feel like that's a mistake, because he needs the extra anti-infantry to deal with the Grenadiers, to deal with the MG. Of course, also some flanking maneuvers would be really good through here. Capturing these points with the rear echelon squads would be really excellent, because right now using the rear echelons in combat isn't really that useful. Now, finally he went for the mortar. He should have gone for the mortar much earlier, I feel like, because the mortar is really the main way in which Americans can deal with these kinds of base pens, with these kinds of very static plays by the Germans. And of course, the mortar is really powerful right now, and keeping it, especially when it's veteran, keeping it in the range of an LMG'd up Grenadier squad is definitely not what you want to do with your mortar. Now, in the north, we do have the captain and the M20 doing some raiding action. Of course, the harassment is welcome. However, I feel like if he did that a little bit more and a little bit with his less potent squads, such as his rear echelons, then it is going to be really good for him. However, he's not really doing it. He's tunnel visioning on his sort of neighborhood a little bit too much, and that's definitely a problem that a lot of players have, and causes a lot of problems, because if essentially, by the way, the 222s are easily able to deal a lot of damage to the scout car. However, the bazookas from both riflemen and M20s mean that the 222s have to play very defensively, and that's good. However, we do see a Panzer IV on the field, rather in construction by Earth, and that's going to be great. The Allies really have no AT that can be used against a medium tank like the Panzer IV, and then if Earth wants, he can go for the Lightning War Doctrine or the Mechanized Assault Doctrine, which is going to allow him to get a Tiger tank in 5 CPs, and that's going to pretty much coincide, if he keeps fighting like this, it's going to pretty much coincide with the pretty much the resources that are going to be needed. The threshold of resources is going to be reached in about, I'm not really sure actually, it looks like 5 or 6 minutes. And actually that's going to be much earlier than the CPs. I miscalculated a little bit, and that's actually a problem. But if Earth can use his Panzer IVs correctly, especially this one, then it's going to be fine. However, he needs to absolutely get a second engineer squad, because there is an M20 on the field for the enemy. Right now, I don't really see any M20 mines necessarily, but the chance of them existing is already sort of high enough and scary enough that Earth should definitely go for a pioneer squad. Now, he has planted some teller mines, and him going for a second Pioneer squad with a obviously Minesweeper is going to be the prerequisite to using this Panzer IV aggressively. However, if right now, like he's doing, uses Panzer IV aggressively without Minesweepers, of course he's exposing himself very greatly to not only mine trouble, but also because he's using it without any infantry support, he's exposing it to the bazooka horde the Americans have. So even in that regard, just to have a quick repair option available in case he takes a burst of damage like that, and unfortunately he will lose also a second Grenadier squad to the blob of both M20 and American bazooka troops. Of course, this is really bad because right now he had the control, complete vice-like control of Ron LG. He had him. There was nothing that Ron LG could have done to come back, and he has just done it. Somehow, Earth has managed to lose enough so that Ron LG can actually come back in the game. Now he has the control of a fuel point. He has the control of the victory point because, thankfully for him, he used one of his rifleman squads to harass the southern parts of the map, finally contesting them a little bit after leaving them to Earth for pretty much the entirety of the game. And I feel like part of this is because of the mortar, making sure that Earth cannot use this building against the Americans anymore. And I feel like also part of that is because Earth kind of misplayed with his Panzer IV. He's definitely tunnel visioning a little bit too much in this M20. The M20 is really not the problem. The M20 is just a very, very slight annoyance for him. The main problem is the lieutenant and the mortar. Because the lieutenant and the mortar are really the ones that can deal a lot of damage to his infantry. He also went for a Panzer Grenadier squad, and I feel like that is a big mistake because he's got a lot of fuel. He doesn't have a lot of manpower. He needs the manpower for his Pioneers and to reinforce his Grenadier squads. Of course, he's also lost 2 Grenadier squads, so eventually he will have to replace a Grenadier squad or 2 to make sure that he keeps the infantry superiority over the Americans. And right now, the fact that he doesn't have the manpower to sort of make that plan into action is very much because he went for a Panzer Grenadier and a second machine gun. Now, the second machine gun is definitely a good thing because the sort of wide open areas of this map are pretty easy to control with machine guns if you can sort of couple them up together and use them in the correct way. But, ooh, this is actually really bad, losing that Vet2. Really nice play from Earth, taking them out with the Flamethrower and the Grenadiers. Really, really bad for Ron LG to ruse that Grenadier squad because he really needed that to be his, not that Grenadier squad, that Rifleman squad. He really, really needed that to be his main AT because right now his only AT gun is sitting at base, and then he's got 2 Grenadiers, 2 Rifleman squads with bazookas, and having that third Rifleman squad with bazookas would have helped out with the burst damage a little bit, essentially making sure that the enemy takes as much damage as possible in the first volley when he is unable to react, and that would have been nice for him to keep that squad, but he's lost it, and this also obviously reduces his capping power, which is not good at all, because right now his main problem is really the fact that Earth is kind of winning all the engagements and is transferring that into map control. However, because of the infantry sort of numbers advantage that Ron LG has, he can still kind of keep up with the map control game, as he has been doing in these last few minutes. However, if he keeps losing infantry squads like this, he will sort of fall behind and further behind, and then he eventually will not be able to keep anything under control anymore. Now, Earth does have a second Panzer IV on the field. He's upgrading with the MG42 Pintalanted. That is, of course, really good for taking out these infantry in the open. However, he's definitely rushing in a little bit too close. He will take an anti-tank rifle grenade right now. He has to. Come on. Ron LG finally manages to get off an anti-tank rifle grenade, but he took so long to do so that the Panzer IV was actually able to just run away, and he actually canceled the anti-tank rifle grenade. So again, those are just wasted opportunities to deal damage to the enemy. Nice rifle grenade out of Earth. Both players also have a pretty high munitions reserve, which means that if Earth went for the lightning ward option, he would have the Stuka close air support airstrike available to him, which means that any vehicle that the Americans do get out will be very vulnerable to that airstrike. Now finally the M20 goes down from a dive from the 444, and the 444 is up to very high levels of veterancy, of course, as we can see, and that is really good because, of course, the 222 at Vet2 gets improved vehicle sighting, and as you can see, the sight range of the 222 is quite long, even without the map hack upgrade, which is the spotting scope. Right now, Earth really needs some pioneers. He's got 4 vehicles and 1 pioneer squad. That is absolutely not enough. And as I said earlier, the Lightning War Doctrine is absolutely the best decision right now because of the airstrike and the Tiger. And he, in fact, has got so many munitions that he could also use the relief infantry to get some Ostruppen to have a sort of capping power force to capture points around the map and also to recruit weapon teams that were knocked out. So I feel like that would be a pretty good thing to do right now as he's losing some Grenadiers. Of course, we have to remember the what the relief infantry actually does. You can get 3 Ostruppen squads. Every 4 soldiers that die from your army replenishes an Ostruppen squad. So you can get up to sort of essentially 30 munitions per Ostruppen level of sort of value. So that's pretty good, actually. Because if we consider the rapid conscription that the Soviets have, which is 120 munitions and gives you 2 conscript squads, which are pretty much equal to Ostruppen in all regards, other than the fact that the Ostruppen have the Panzerfaust, which is a longer range AT snare. Of course, these Panzer IVs being so bunched up allows the AT gun to actually get a lot of shots in because the pathing took them forever to actually retreat. So again, don't bunch up your vehicles a little bit too much. Keep them together, but not bunched up. That will not be good. Also, don't go back into an area where you know there's an AT gun. I feel like Earth was probably thinking that the enemy had retreated the AT gun or positioned it somewhere else, as he is doing right now, to sort of avoid Earth knowing where it was. However, he didn't do that, and of course he walked into the AT gun again. And now, oh look, you have 4 damaged vehicles and 1, or rather, finally he got a second Pioneer squad. Upgrade that with a Minesweeper. You never know when the enemy could have managed to get down an M20 mine. The M20 mine can deal a huge amount of damage to your Panzer IV. It can obviously deal a destroyed engine critical, and it's in general not something you want to chance upon. You really, really need a Minesweeper, especially in a 1v1. Now, Ron LG going for the Pershing obviously is going to be his sort of last ditch effort to stay in this game, and that could work. Honestly, it could work because right now Earth does not have a pack. Again, this all goes back to that Panzer Grenadier squad that did nothing and really just was a waste of manpower on the part of Earth. I feel like if he wouldn't have gone for that, he could have done so much better with his manpower. Right now, he should probably go for a pack now that he sees the Rangers, especially because the Rangers are about to kill his... Okay, no, he definitely sees... He walks back onto the grenade, but very luckily, the grenade does not wipe the Panzer Rangers. Panzer Rangers will go for a bundle grenade, and the Rangers will be forced to retreat from the bundle grenade and the Sturmgewehrs of the Panzer Grenadiers. Now that he knows that there are Rangers on the field, he's going to go for the Tiger, definitely. And the Tiger cannot really do that well against the Pershing, despite the fact that their cost is fairly equal. And I feel like he definitely needs a pack. Now, the 2 Panzer IVs, you may be thinking, oh, well, he's got 2 Panzer IVs, he doesn't need an extra pack because, well, the Panzer IVs are essentially got the same gun. However, Company Führer does not always work in the way you'd expect it to be, so you always need to take some mental gymnastics of the Company Führer's engine into account when you're actually building up your forces. So, the Panzer IV usually has a lot less penetration than the pack. I'm not exactly sure on the numbers, however, I'm pretty damn sure it's slower, because the Panzer IV struggles usually to penetrate the Pershing. However, the pack pretty much always penetrates the Pershing from the front, from any distance, and even the pack has the ability to obviously do the target weak point, which is pretty much the bane of the Pershing, because that, like, 5-ish second stun is huge, a huge window of opportunity where you can just push in your AT gun and deal a lot of damage, push in your vehicles, deal even more damage, and that would be really, really nice for Earth to have. However, he doesn't have the manpower to get a pack gun. Why? Because he went for that Panzer Grenadier squad. Again, it always comes back to that one unit. I feel like that was a big waste, and it could have meant a lot. Unfortunately for Ron LG, he wasn't able to really come back into the game when he could have, partially because he didn't harass enough. Finally, he's doing that a little bit more with the Rangers. He did that earlier a little bit with the rear echelons in the north and in the south with the Riflemen. But after losing that Vet 2 Rifleman squad, he decided to stop harassing the south, which was a huge mistake. It allowed Herf to get a huge VP lead, to get a triple cap. Now he's got pretty much 400 VPs on the enemy. He's got a huge resource lead, which means that when a Pershing will be on the field, then it will pretty much be Pershing and Tiger. Okay, that's even levels of fuel. But then there's also 2 Panzer IVs, so 250 extra fuel. So an extra Tiger, essentially. Whoa. Well, rip MG, so the mortar takes out the MG. Again, the mortar was just the best decision that Ron LG could have gone for. Of course, the mortar right now, the nice usage of S mines, by the way, by Earth. Again, USF mortar right now is a little bit overpowered, and the fact that Ron LG did not go for a USF mortar earlier definitely was a huge mistake for him. I feel like it would have helped him out a lot more in the sort of first 15 minutes of the game. Before he, of course, got it at like 10-15 minutes, he would have had a lot of need for a mortar, but he didn't get a mortar, and he was punished for it because Earth was just able to camp this building and keep the bulk of the American infantry in a base. And right now there is the Pershing on the field, but I feel like that would be the last hurrah of Ron LG. I don't see how he can fight against all of this unless Earth makes a huge mistake, losing his Tiger and his Panzer IVs in one engagement, which he might. He's sending in the Panzer IVs in a full view of the AT gun with rear armor turned on the AT gun, and he's losing his Vet 1 Panzer IV. He's going to blitz out of there, but the Pershing could actually come in and ambush the Panzer IV, as he does. Actually, the AT gun got the last shot in. AT gun is up to Vet 3. Of course, the American AT gun is very, very powerful once it gets veterancy because of the take aim ability, which is really powerful, and also because of the increased mobility, accuracy, and penetration that you get at Vet 2 and 3. Now, unfortunately for Ron LG, this is too late also because of VPs. There is a triple cap coming up for Earth, and he's going to need to pretty much hold the fort for 30 seconds to keep that triple cap and get the win. And I don't feel like the Pershing will be enough to get that sort of clutch cap. Definitely not enough. Other mistakes of Ron LG, probably the lieutenant here really didn't do much. The only thing that really helped out with the lieutenant here was the lieutenant himself, which of course could have been that role could have been transferred to a rifleman squad with bars instead of bazookas. And then the M20, the fact that the M20 drew so much attention from the Germans, that was essentially a little bit of a sort of a taunting mechanism, an attention drawing tool, a big focus sponge for Earth. But I feel like that was more of a mistake that Earth made, and yeah, that could have led to a little bit of a sort of more useful M20. However, the M20 was still useless. He did not plant any M20 mines. That is a huge mistake. Earth did not have a minesweeper. I cannot stress enough how big of a mistake that was. And if there was a mine over here, a mine over here, mines over here, then that would have been a lot more scary for Earth to make those pushes with the Panzer IVs in the northern area of the map and also in the central area of the map. Also, what Ron LG really kind of fucked up on is getting all his riflemen upgraded with bazookas. He should have definitely gone for some BARs. The BARs are pretty much a necessity for the Americans, especially on longer range maps like these, because that's their only real advantage against the Grenadiers, the fact that he can equip 2 BARs to the 1 LMG of the Grenadiers. And so if he had those BARs and he had relegated the rear echelons to AT duty and the AT guns to AT duty instead of getting a huge amount of bazookas on his infantry squads, and especially since he did have the M20 vehicle crew saved, he did have the rear echelon squad from the start of the game saved, he did have the captain out on the field, so he could have had a lot of bazookas regardless of having those riflemen and being upgraded with the bazookas. So the fact that sort of he had a little bit of extra firepower against the Panzer IVs really didn't help him out when the Grenadiers were really doing all the damage. So yeah, I feel like that would have been a really good thing if he would have gone for the BRs instead of the bazookas. Now, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the cast. I hope that you will tune in again, and I'll see you soon.